This starts with review number 4, so just going to continue from last week. So it says, which of the following is the solution to the system? And vocabulary is very important. So when we talk about solutions to a system, okay, a system just simply means two or more equations. So it's not like a solution to a quadratic equation. This is a system. So basically, I put a little note up here. You look to see where the lines intersect. Okay, so they're kind of, testing a couple things here. Do you know what a solution to a system means? That means where the lines intersect. And can you read the coordinate correctly? Okay, so this is at 2, 3, right? Over here, properties is going to be very, very, very important to know. And here it says between what two steps is the associative property being used? So if you look at this, and when you're looking at associative property, the only thing that should move are the parentheses. So the numbers should be in the exact same place, like 3, 2x, 3, 2x, plus, plus, negative and negative, 2x and 2x. Everything should be in the exact same place. The only thing that should shift should be how you group them. Okay, that's the associative property. So the numbers don't move. If the numbers had moved, it would be the commutative property. Okay, so that's what you pay attention to. Associative property, everything stays in the same order, just your parentheses shift around. So that's from 2 to 3. Okay. And you can make a note of that. Okay, numbers stay in the exact same position for associative property. So you want to make little notations to yourself. So, those are things you should keep in mind. Okay. All right, let's take a look. Which of the following is a factor? So what you have to do is obviously factor it out completely. And then they're only going to pick one of them. One of the answers will be listed. So they didn't give you like the x minus 4 and the 2x plus 3. And so they said, which of the following is a factor as the x minus 4? So how do you factor this? So remember, you take your a and c term. Okay, that's this term and this term. That's the number you see at the top. Your middle term goes at the bottom. Okay, so you're saying what times what gives you negative 24, negative 8, positive 3, but will also add up to negative 5. Okay, then we divide by our a term. Our a term is 2. So I put a 2 under each one. And then I just reduce this one. I cannot reduce the other side. And then when you write it, you start from the bottom up, x minus 4, 2x plus 3. The only one that's there is the x minus 4. Okay. All right, number 5 says select the point that is the x-intercept. So when you're on the x-axis, just think about it. Okay, I'm going to draw a little picture here. Okay, x is this axis here, y to the sky. So when you're on the x-axis, the value of y is what? What's the value of y if you're on the x-axis? Right, because this would be like 1, 0. This would be 2, 0. You see 0, negative 1, 0. So the value of y is 0 when you're on the x, and it's just the opposite when you're on the y-axis. The value of x is 0. So that is why you see I replace y with 0, and then I just simply solve the equation for x. That is how you find the x-intercept. Okay. Now, another way you could do it, if you wanted to use your calculator, you could solve this equation for y. Punch it in your calculator, look at your calculator and see where it's crossing the x-axis. But then you got to know how to solve for y, all right? So you could do that as well. You could isolate y and then punch it in. Okay, so let me do that for you. So if I had negative 3x plus 4y equals 12. If I solve this for y, I'm going to add the 3x to the other side. And that's going to give me 4y equals 3x plus 12 divided by 4. All right, and then I'll have y equals 3/4 x plus 3 when I reduce 12 divided by 4. So then you could punch that into your calculator, and then you could see very clearly that it's crossing the x-axis at 4. That's at -4, I'm sorry, -4. Okay? So that's an alternative way if you don't want to just replace y with 0 and solve it for x. So just try to give you some choices. All right, let's take a look at the next one here. So for number 6, now I worked this out by hand, but you could also, and let's do this together, hit your y equals key and put in 150 divided by x squared. And then you're going to go to all right, then we're going to go to our table. So hit second graph. And then you should see 5 and 6 and everything after that are decimals. All right, and so I already know that it can't be this one, because that's where you start doing some process of eliminations. I already know that it can't be this one, or really this one. I mean, I haven't done anything else, but you know, if it's that simple, you could do that. All right, because you can see that the simplified 150 is going to be 5 and 6. That said 5 and 5. That said 25 and 5. I mean, so this is the only choice, but you do want to know how to work out these exponents. So if it says x to the 6th power, that's already perfect because it's even. So you want your exponents to be even because the index here is a 2. Sometimes the index is a 3. Okay, but when you don't see the index, square means 2. So you want this to be like a multiple of 2, the highest multiple of 2. So when you take it out, you want to divide this 6 by the index. So what is 6 divided by 2? And there's your x to the 3rd right there. Okay, now this is not divisible by 2, but see how I broke it down to y to the 2nd times y to the 1st? So now when I take this one out, I'm going to say 2 divided by 2 is 1. And then that y that was not perfect stays underneath. All right, here's number 7. Now in number 7, this is like the mistake that students usually make right here. They might distribute a 3, but they don't take the negative with it. So this is multiplying by a -3. So bring down the 2x, and then -3 times 2 is -6x, and -3 times 4 is -12. This is where the mistake usually happens right here, because they'll see the plus inside of here and automatically bring it here, but you're distributing a negative. Okay, and then notice how I grouped these together first, so that gives me a total of -4. Then I put all my x's on one side, so I moved this one over here by subtracting it. Then I got to get all my constants to one side, so I added the 12 to the other side. Now this is the catch right here too. I had to, when I divided by this -5, what do? You got to reverse the symbol. Okay, so you might even want to put reverse symbol. Okay, because we divide it by a negative. Okay, we divide it by a negative, so reverse the symbol. All right, any questions on this page before we move to the next? Okay. All right, now this one, and you will have graph paper, so this will all, you know, you have to graph this so you can get a good visual. It says which section should be shaded to complete the graph of the system, because there's more than one system of inequalities. So what I did was first please write up here, first solve for y. Write it down. You have to have it in slope-intercept form so, you'll know if which way to shade it. Because this one, I ended up divided by a negative, so see how it changed from less than to greater than? So first, make sure it's in slope-intercept form. Okay? Now, how do I know that this dashed line is this line right here? How do I know that? Look at the inequality symbols. How do I know this is the line for this one? How do I know that? Because there's not an equal sign, right? If it's just less than, or if it's just greater than, it is a dashed line, okay? And then it says less than, so I'm shading below the line. Okay, so that's where you see I shaded below the line. Okay. Now, the solid line is this line right here. That's for this one. And this says greater, so I'm going to put that in a different color. So that would be this area right here, which is section A. That's where the two colors would overlap. Okay, so when it asks you for the solution, they're asking you where did the two lines overlap each other. Okay. All right, I don't think I worked out number 9. Now, this one you can actually do, and let's just do this one together. Let's get the equation for the line of best fit. And then it asks you if someone catches a fish that is 15 inches long, then what would you expect its weight to be? So we will then be able to put that value in for X and get a good approximation. All right, so hit stat. I'm just going to walk you through the steps. Okay, so hit stat and enter. Clear the list. And then your L1, put in the length. And the L2, put in the weight. Okay, I'll give you a second to do that. Okay, I'll just pause this. So after you have in your data, you're going to go stat again. You're going to go over to calc at the top. And then you're going to just press number 4. Okay, and then just keep hitting enter until you get your equation. Okay, now I don't have it written down, so I would like for somebody to tell me what the equation is. Y equals, and let's just go out 2 decimal places. All right, so now what we're going to do is hit our Y equals key, okay, and put in 4.33x minus 27.67. Everybody do that. Okay, then once you get that in, we're asking, since this is in inches, this is our X, and this is our Y. We're trying to find the Y. So we're going to go to the table. And how do you change the table? Who remembers? Second what? Second window to change the table. Okay, and can somebody tell me what the prediction, what's very close to it? All right, how many people got C? 37.3. Great, very good. That's all you had to do for that. Okay, calculator did it all. Okay, you just have to know, how to get that equation to make a prediction. And it didn't, and this one didn't even say find the line of best fit first. But guys, when you got a table and they're asking you to make a prediction, you got to do that. Okay, now if it's curve of best fit, they'll actually say curve of best fit. Okay, now, when I look at equations, I look at them probably a little differently, and you should start as well. The very first thing you need to do here when they're asking you about slopes of lines is to solve for y. Because you have to know what to do first. That's the first thing you do. First, solve for y. Okay? Because then you will know what the slope is. And that the reason is then you can narrow down your choices. So this says the slope is a negative slope. Well, these are going in positive directions. So right away, I will put an X on this one and this one because these are positive slopes. That's how you look at lines now. When you look at that number beside X, that's the slope. And if it's and I know if this is negative, it should be going this way, to the left, not to the right. Right is always positive, left is always negative. Okay? So I would have crossed these out right away. Now, then I would have looked for the y-intercept. Well, that didn't help me because both of these actually cross at 3. So now it's forcing me to find the actual slope. So what I did, I actually connected 2 points that I could actually read, and I made my right triangle. Rise over run. Here's the rise number. Here's the run number. Okay, if I did this one, the rise is 3 and the run is -1. Okay, and the slope is actually -1/3, not -3. Okay, hopefully you guys had that one right. Okay, now how do you do a problem like this? Whenever you see something in parentheses like this is the value of X. That is your X value. That is, and they're not going to say take X, which is -2, and plug it in here and see which one gives you -5. The answer that you get, okay, you tell me, if this is X, what's the answer called? X and Y, exactly. All right. So they're asking you when X is 2, which one of these will equal to -5? You can actually do this a couple ways. Now that I just said we're going to actually count, think of this as -2, -5 as the ordered pair. So if you really wanted to, hey, since we know this is the answer, go ahead and put this into your y equals. Hit your y equals key. Everybody hit y equals. And type in 1/2 x squared minus 7. Then I want you to go to the table and see if you see -2 and -5. So technically, you could hit your y equals key because this is like h of x and k of s and f of x. They're telling you this is x. The answer you get is called y. Does everybody know how to get to the absolute value symbols in your calculator? So this could be a calculator problem. It could be a problem that you could also work out by hand. I did it by hand as well. But you could hit your y equals key, and you could type in every one of these equations and see which one comes out to say -2, -5 in the table. Okay, but I want to go over how you actually type in an absolute value. So hit your y equals key. Everybody hit y equals. And then I need an absolute value bar. So hit your math key, arrow over to the top to one time to NUM. You might want to write that down. Math, arrow over to NUM, and then hit enter. So when you hit enter, you'll see those bars. How many people saw them? Okay, now just type in x minus 3. Okay, and then when you go to the table, -2 does not pair up with -5, does it? Nope, -2 actually pairs up with +5. All right, so you could actually do this problem if you know that if they're giving you x and they're giving you y, you could type them in and see if you see them. Okay. All right, let's take a look at number 12. Number 12 says, write the appropriate label. Okay, write the appropriate label for each line in the box provided. All right, so either positive slope, negative slope. Okay, the one that goes across the top like a flat line, what is that? That's a horizontal line. What is the slope of a horizontal line? 0. Remember, we spell horizontal with an O. You don't spell vertical with O's. Okay, so the horizontal line has a slope of 0. Vertical line has an undefined slope. So I'm just going to put UND. That's the, or you can put the letter D. Okay, actually, I think that's what they wanted you to put. So we'll put C here. All right, so this is an undefined slope. Now, the way to remember that is U and V are together in the alphabet. So if you actually said your ABCs, U and V are together in the alphabet. So the vertical line is the one with the undefined slope. I know now you're saying your ABCs, right? Okay, so if you guys take your SOL and all of a sudden I see you saying your ABCs, then I'm saying, okay, they're probably doing the vertical line with the undefined slope. All right, if the slope is going upward to the right, what kind of slope is that? Positive slope. Okay, and then of course, this would be your negative slope. Okay, that's good to know, directions of lines, because that's very good to know. All right, moving on. All right. Okay, here is exponent rules, right? So this would be the very first thing I would do is the big numbers. I would say, oh, I know 10 divided by 5 is what? 2. That's going to eliminate this one at least. I know it's not 50, right? Then I'll start using my division rule, which says to subtract. So what is 3 minus 1? 2. And then what is 5 minus 10? Negative 5. So it goes in the denominator. So it'll be positive 5. Okay. All right. So for this one, see how they use the word product? They didn't say multiply. So you have to know that product means to multiply. So this is just using the distributive property twice. You're going to take your 2x and you're going to multiply it by the 3x and the negative 4. 2x times 3x gives you 6x squared. Okay, write it down if you didn't get this far. 2x times negative 4 gives you negative 8x. Okay, then you're going to start with the 3 and do the same thing. Distribute again. 3 times 3x is 9x. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. Okay, and then of course you want to combine. Now, when you combine, guys, please don't do anything now to the exponents. Okay, combining just means you're adding or subtracting the coefficients. So 9 minus 8 is 1x. Okay, so that's letter D. Okay. All right, here's another one. When you see two proportions like this, all you do is cross multiply. So I set it up so you can actually see. I took the negative 2, multiplied it by everything at the top. That's why it looks like this. And then I put the 3 and multiplied it by everything at the top. Pretty basic equation. Okay. All right, we're skipping this one because we don't do standard deviation this year. So just put an X on that. Okay. On number 16. And we're going to also skip number 17 and we'll go to the next page. Okay. All right, this is a very good problem that you definitely need to know how to do. So the only thing they gave you was this right here. That was the only thing you know. It says point A is part of direct variation. Now, as soon as they say that, you should think about 0, 0. Because direct variation equations pass through the origin. And that's really why they're saying direct variation, because they want you to plot 2 additional points that are part of direct variation. Well, if you only have 1, how are you going to plot 2 other ones? Because they told you 1 is direct variation. So there's your second point right there. So if you know 2 points, here's my direct variation one. Now you can do the slope. See how we do that? And this is rise over run, 2 over 4. So all I got to do is do that again, 2 over 4. And now I have my second point right there. Okay, that has been on like every release test right there, where you're just given 1 point. They tell you it's direct variation. And then by them telling you that, they're really giving you a second point. And then you just take those 2 points, do your slope, and then do it again. You got your 2 additional points. See how that works? Very good question, guys. I mean, when I say very good, that's a very good question. All right, here's number 19. Okay. So number 19 said, which of the following is equivalent? What does equivalent mean? Equal. You almost see the word. Okay, equal, not similar. It means equal. Okay, EQU. Then you almost see the word equal, equivalent to. So you would have to factor this out and see how I factor it. 3 times 6 is 18. Put 19 at the bottom. That's 18 and 1. I divided by the A term, changed that to 6 and 1, wrote down my factors, and of course crossed out what was alike. And now, of course, I use X's, but they use P's, which is fine. And so C is the correct answer. See how we did that? Any questions? Factoring, you have to know how to do. You have to know how to factor, guys. Okay? And these did not have a GCF, but always look for a greatest common factor first. And especially what kind of gives it away is when the numbers are pretty large. Okay, you know, look for a GCF. So this one right here, number 20, was a little tricky because they didn't just factor out a positive 3, they actually took out a negative 3xy. Okay, so how did they get negative 3xy? Well, they looked at all the x's and they chose the smallest exponent of the x's, which is x, because when they have them all alike, you always choose the smaller, and then, or the smallest, because there's 3. And then here, same thing, all of them had y's, so you choose y to the first. All right, so you're dividing each term by negative 3xy. So this is a minus. Okay, it didn't print out as well, but that's a minus. Okay, because I'm dividing by a negative. So a negative divided by a negative changes that to a positive 4. Okay, the y's cancel. You got an x left. And these are the same except for a positive and a negative. So that's just negative 1. A negative and a negative is a positive. 15 divided by 3 is 5. The x's cancel out. And you subtract your y's. And you have one of those left. Okay? And you can put an X on this one. All right, we won't be doing that one. Okay. All right, guys, we're just going to do a couple more of these so we'll have time to pack up here. This one is strictly just finding the slope. Now, the first thing when I looked at this, I looked and said, oh, it's negative because it's going up and to the left. So I already know it can't be these two. I mean, that's the first thing I look at is direction. Okay, it's a negative slope, can't be these two right here. Okay, then I actually just connected these 2 points that you can actually read. Don't do this one because that's not on the coordinate. Okay, get one that's right there in the corner. Okay, rise again oh, I might have had this one wrong. This should have been negative 2/3. Yep, okay, because this is your rise number here, and this is your run. Okay, I circled the wrong one. Okay. All right, we're going to stop there.